In this video I want to show you how to make a gravy from scratch, and you could make that with all types of bones. Today I'll show you with chicken, and that will be really good for sort of a gravy that you could make for your roast or your roast turkey and things like that. So first, get the hot pan, fry off the chicken bones. In my case, could be lamb bones, could be duck bones, pork bones, whatever you want. Just make sure that they're finely sort of quite broken up or chopped up. Also make sure that you have a lot of meat trimmings, because the meat trimmings will give you the flavor. So what you're basically trying to do now here is to brown the bones as dark as you can. As more color you get onto those bones, as browner and as better looking your gravy will be. So what you see me doing here is just to roast it and roast it, and sometimes you might find that the bones don't brown up that much, but the bottom of the pot browns up really nicely, and that's perfectly fine, because what you need to get some brown color somewhere. So then in my case I deglaze the pan with some dry sherry. It could be wine, just nothing that sticks, like don't do like a tomato puree or things like so. So what I do now, basically I deglaze. I will repeat that process 4, 5, 6 times until I build so much flavor up, so much depth, and I build up a lot of different layers to that, you know, to the sauce. And that's basically the key. That's what you do when you do a brown stock. You brown the bones. So this is a bit of a shortcut. It's not something I would serve in a Michelin star restaurant, because I will get a bit of a cloudy stock, but the flavor will be absolutely perfect. So just keep roasting it, keep deglazing it, roasting it. You push it as far as you can. Now you could of course do that in the pan as well. So if you have any leftover pan roasting juices, like I show you in one of my other videos, when you cook a steak, you don't throw them out. You deglaze that as well. You put it in your fridge, you put it in your freezer, and when you make a gravy, you throw those pan juices in as well. And you can see the amazing brown color I got there now. And that's basically just from the roasting, and that will give you gravy flavor, and that will give you gravy basically lots and lots of color. That's exactly what you want. So you keep deglazing it, deglazing. Now that process can take you easy up to 30-40 minutes, but you cannot make any shortcuts, and it does help if you have your bones fairly small as well. Get all sort of meat scraps. Like if I make a wine gravy, I probably would add some lamb bones to it, beef bones, whatever you want. Now some chopped carrots, thyme, celery, onion, mushrooms. Extremely important, the mushrooms. You know why? Because mushrooms have a lot of natural MSG or glutamate, or people talk about the umami flavor. So mushrooms naturally have that a lot. Tomatoes have that a lot as well. So what you do now, basically by adding those mushrooms, I will intensify all those flavors. So all the flavors will just get so much stronger, so much better. Now you roast the vegetables off as well. It's not that it needs that necessarily, but the onions and the garlic, they need a bit of roasting, because that will also then go into the gravy, give you an absolutely amazing flavor. Now I'll make that sauce all the time when I do a roast chicken. I keep my old roast chicken bones, so from the chicken bones after roasting my chicken, I put that in the freezer, and now I added some balsamic vinegar, and vinegar is extremely important, as well as soy sauce, because both of them will give you color as well as flavor. And then add some tinned tomatoes. Now soy sauce, you obviously have to do that in very small amounts, because you don't want it to taste like a soy sauce, but as I said before, it has a lot of natural glutamate, MSG or umami flavor, and that will just bring out all the flavors from the gravy and intensify all the other flavors. And then you just basically cover it with liquid. If you have a chicken stock, you could do that. If you don't worry, just use water. Or if you want to make a red wine gravy, I'll just basically use red wine. And then start simmering the sauce. So that's an important part now, that you sort of simmer it for quite long, and always make sure that the bones are fully submerged with the liquid. So in my case, you can see that here the bones start to come out. I need to add a little bit more liquid, and I cook that for approximately an hour. If I have the time, I will cook it for 2 or 3 hours, and basically the flavors just get stronger and stronger. So once you're then done with your sauce, you strain it off, and you can see the color is just absolutely amazing. And the most important thing is now, just don't strain it off and then throw those bones out. What you need to do, you need to do basically wash those bones off again. So in French cooking, you basically make a remoulage or a grand jus, which means that there's a lot of flavors and a lot of stuff still sticking to those bones. So don't just throw them out, because you will throw out a lot of flavor. So what you do then, strain it all off, set the gravy aside, squeeze out all the juices first, and then I will show you what I'm gonna do next. So what can you do with the gravy afterwards? You can freeze it. It lasts in the fridge easily for 2 to 3 weeks. So now all the stuff goes back into the pot. So everything I had there, and then I add more water. And it just has to be water. It cannot be wine, because you don't want to have any sort of the yeasts. If it's chicken stock, that would be fine. And now you just wash off all those bones. You can see me now sort of tossing it around, washing all of the bones, and so that I cook off all the flavor, that all the sticky bits, you know, all those proteins and those caramelized juices that have been on that bones, which I would have thrown out. I would have probably lost another cup of gravy. I just strain it off. And you can see the amazing color you get of that here. So always do that. So here we go. That is your gravy. Now you obviously don't have the right consistency, and you need to flavor it as well. One thing I did before, I added some balsamic vinegar, and that's very good because it's good for color and it adds a little bit of sugar, but more importantly, it adds a little bit of acidity, because most people, when they season, they don't season right. They season for salt, they season for pepper, but they don't go off and season for acidity as well. So acidity is something that will lift it up. So next thing is Bermani, which that basically is 1 part of soft butter and 1 part of flour, which are mixed together. You can learn that all in my sauce course if you click on the link below. And I just add little by little. You have to be very careful. Don't add too much at once, because if you add too much at once and then it comes to the boil, your sauce could be too thick. So what you need to do, you add a little bit of Bermani, you make sure it's fully dissolved, you make sure the sauce comes to a full boil, and you can see how nicely it thickens it up. So Bermani is basically just a simple version of a roux. So now check the consistency of your sauce, and that's very important, because a sauce needs to hold on to the food you serve it with. So if that would be a roast chicken, that's probably enough, but I want it probably a bit thicker. If I serve it with some meat that's a bit pink, because you always need to think a sauce needs to hold on to the food you serve it with. If that doesn't happen, the sauce will stay back on the plate, and then it goes back into the kitchen and it basically goes down the drain. So in my case, a little bit too thin, so I go back. I cannot give you an exact recipe for that. I will just add little by little until I'm happy with the flavor. So then a little bit of butter. Butter brings the flavors together, makes the sauce nice and silken. It will also bring the flavors together, and it makes it rich and it makes it creamy. And then to finalize it, I season it with salt, a little bit of pepper, and you saw me adding a tiny bit of sherry vinegar. Chefs, Michelin star chefs, love using sherry vinegar because it has such a pleasant aroma. It's not sort of acidic as any sort of other vinegars are. So you can see now how nice the sauce holds onto the plate, and as the sauce holds onto the plate, that's how it will hold on to the food, at the rim of the plate. And here we go. So that's your gravy. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you another time.